When I was little, my brother and I used to visit our uncle's farm during the summer. Those were some of the best times of my childhood, running wild and free in the open fields. The grass seemed to stretch on forever. We'd spend hours out there, lost in our own little world of make-believe. We'd hide in the tall grass, taking turns being the seeker and the one being sought. But one day, those fun, innocent summers were cruelly snatched from us. It was the kind of summer morning that I loved, overcast but warm with a gentle breeze. We were playing in the fields like we always did, when out of nowhere my brother tells me to get down. At first I think it's all part of a game, but then I register the seriousness in his eyes. I instantly drop to the ground and crawl to his side. I go to ask him what's wrong, and he pushes a finger against his lips and jabs in the direction of whatever he saw. We lie in wait, and then hear someone rustling towards us. The land was private property and fenced off from the public. It was very unusual to see anybody out here that we didn't know, and even more unusual for them to be wandering through the middle of the fields. And then I see him, a man striding through the wheat with a Hessian sack over his head, his hands dripping with blood. I stayed deadly quiet as he slips past us, holding my breath until he's disappeared from view. When he's gone, I whisper to my brother that we should return to the house, but he glances back at me with a mischievous glint in his eye and tells me that he's going to follow the tracks that the man left in the grass. He says that he needs to find out where he went so we can tell our uncle about it later. I think he's really just spurred by the idea of a real adventure, but I'm scared and I grab his hands and plead with him to stay. He hushes me and tells me that he'll only go as far as the edge of the field. He says he'll be back in a few minutes and I should stay where I am. He takes off his cardigan and pads out the ground with it for me to sit on. Then he disappears into the wheat. That's the last time that I ever saw him. I stay where I am for as long as I dare and then run back to the farmhouse. I tell my uncle what's happened, and he spends hours looking for my brother, but returns alone. The police do a thorough search of the area, and missing person posters are stuck up around the local town, but nothing comes of it. It was the 60s, and police resources and forensics weren't what they are today. I stopped spending summers at my uncle's farm. It was tainted and dangerous, and I never found out who that man with the sack head was, or whatever became of my brother. I was in hospital for a short stint when I had my appendix out. The operation itself went well. It's what happened in recovery when I was doped up on meds that left a psychological scar that I simply can't shift. I'd just come out of surgery and was lying in bed. The anaesthetic was still coursing through my blood, and I was drifting in and out of consciousness. It was a nice, fuzzy feeling, like I'm floating on a cloud of cotton candy. The nice, spongy feeling I'm getting from the drugs dissipates, and a strange sort of panic begins to rise in me. It's very hard to explain, but it's almost as if my body was responding to a threat that my mind was not yet aware of. I lift my head from the pillow and take in the surroundings. The early evening light has muted the room in tones of grey. It's because of this dim palette that it takes me a minute to spot the haggard old lady standing in the corner of the room. She's all bent over and watching me with a crooked smile on her face. The feeling of terror is indescribable, and I instinctively know that she means me harm, but my head is so heavy that it drops back down onto the pillow. I'm trying to get a grip on my senses, but the medication has made me slow and heavy, like my limbs are packed with sand. I manage to lift my head again, and now see the old woman in the middle of the room, creeping towards me. I collapse again. My eyes are searching for a button to alert a nurse, and I see one on the bedside table next to me, but I'm too weak to reach it. I suddenly feel the weight of the bed shifting, and the covers tighten around my body. That horrible woman has climbed onto the bed, her face appearing into my line of sight. Her knees push down on top of my chest and I can hardly breathe. A nasty glee plays about her face, like she's enjoying my pain. Then her hands reach down around my throat and she starts to squeeze. I try squirming and fighting her off, but the medication and the sheets swaddling my body has rendered me weak and helpless. The last memory I have before I pass out is her disgusting smile as she takes delight in throttling me. The next thing I know, it's morning. I wake up gasping for breath. I'm very relieved that everything is normal again and my body has all of its movements back, but I'm really shaken by the night's events. I'd love to pass it all off as a drug-fueled nightmare, but when I look in the mirror, I have bands of red marking my neck. Now, years later, I still wake up with that same feeling of intense fear beating down on me. I just pray that I never see that scary old lady ever again. You know, I've always been big on home security. I've had cameras installed at my place for years. It always made me feel safe. But once your property has been targeted, having the footage of someone prowling around your home is far from comforting. It shows you things that you wish you never saw. Me and the family had left for vacation. It was a trip abroad that we were all really excited about. We'd just spent half the day up in the air and were settling in at our hotel. I've just connected to the Wi-Fi when my phone starts going nuts. A ton of notifications are dropping in from the home security system. There's like 100 messages. I check the footage. It instantly shocks me as I see a face appearing at one of the back windows. I watch as they pull the sealant off the frame, remove the pane of glass and climb inside. The speed at which they are able to break in is unnerving. Then he stands in the kitchen like he's listening to the house before he strides off down the hallway. He doesn't appear to be in a rush or searching for valuables. He's taking his time, methodically moving from room to room, standing at the centre of each, before moving to the next. Then he turns to go upstairs, and my stomach sinks as I see that he's swinging a large claw hammer. I don't have any cameras on the top floor, so I couldn't tell you what he did up there, but there's a video time-stamped 6 hours later of him coming back down. I'd take a guess that he was probably waiting for someone to return home, but gave up on the idea. Next thing I see, he goes to the fridge, pours a glass of milk and makes himself a sandwich. Then he washes up his plate, stacks it neatly on the draining board, and leaves. Now we're miles away from all of this, and he left the property hours ago, so there's not a whole lot I can do. The next day, I get a neighbour to swing by with the police and check things out. They find out that this freak has collected up a bunch of mirrors and positioned them all over the master bedroom, with a couple of shower curtains draped over the bed. I have no idea what kind of kooky plan he had, but likely something so screwed up that it doesn't bear thinking about. To add insult to injury, his glass of milk left a deep stain on the French oak countertop. How hard is it to put down a coaster? Some people are just trash.